Okay, I understand there was some problem using the radios. Quite frankly, I've pretty much forgotten how to use it myself. So let's take a look at the radios and see if we can reason together on how to operate this thing. Okay, this is the front. We've got a bunch of buttons, and the buttons aren't doing anything right now. We have a button on the side. If we look carefully at the top, it says PTT. That means press to talk. So when you want to talk, you would push this button. When you want to listen, you would release that button. That's what PTT means. Oh, here's some clues. On the back, it says low 8 DCS 8 and high 1 DCS1. Clearly these labels weren't put on by the manufacturers, so they must have been put on by someone at Sonoma Greens telling us that when we want to use the radios in the low power position, we would use channel 8 DCS8. That's good for communications within the greens. And when we need longer range, maybe halfway across town, we would want to go to the high power position, which is channel 1 DCS1. The radio is capable of using a lot more frequencies than that, but these are the ones we've decided to use for Sonoma Greens. Again, normally we're going to be using low 8 DCS8, clearly labeled on the back of the radios. That's a big clue. So if we come here, well, here's something else over here. This seems to be a cover with ports on it. And if you look at the labels, one port is for a microphone and another port is for speakers, so we're not going to be discussing the use of this side today, so that's not where we want to go. And again, if we push on these, nothing is happening. This is clearly an antenna, so that leaves this thing right here. And lo and behold, if I turn it on, the radio comes to life. And also we've got some turning ability on this, so this must be the volume for the radio. You can see right now we're on channel 8, and up here it says DCS 8. Now 8, where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, I remember. Channel 8, DCS 8. This is where we want to normally use the radio. And if you're smart, that's where you'll leave your radio when you're not using it. Now I can light up the screen by pushing any one of these buttons, and the screen will stay lit up for a little while. Let's notice when we look at the screen, we've got a battery strength indicator up here. Might be easier to see when the light goes off. That probably tells us the strength of our battery and whether we need to put the radio back into the charging unit, which makes contact down here clearly. We also look at the screen, we can see a little small lock there. I don't know if it's easier to see with the screen lit up or with the screen dark. Looking around here, lo and behold, there's a lock that looks very similar on this button. So if I push this button, well, that's more like a telephone ring. That's more like a call. So maybe, just maybe, because this button has two things on it, it's a dual function button, and a short push on that button is probably the call function. Let's see what happens if I push on it for a longer time and hold it. Did you hear the tone? And notice that the lock indicator on the screen disappeared. So this is how you lock and unlock something on the radio. Now if I do other things here, nothing is happening. So clearly when the lock light is illuminated, we've locked up the radio. And this is a good thing to do which will prevent you from changing the frequency, for instance, inadvertently. But right now we're going to work with changing some things, so I'm going to unlock the radio by pushing and holding the lock button for a few seconds. Notice the lock disappears. Now, I can push the down button, the up button, nothing's happening. Here's one that says Mon Scan. That might mean monitor scan, and watch what happens when I push it. Notice that the radio is cycling through many different frequencies. What it's doing is looking for radio traffic on these individual channels, and if and when it hears something on a channel, it will stop scanning, and for the length of time that the transmission is going on that channel, you'll be able to listen in on what's going on. But this is not a normal use for what we're going to do here in Sonoma Green, so I'm going to push that button again, and notice it went back to 8, DCS 8. So that pretty much leaves this button right here. Watch what happens when I push it. We get a flashing 8, which will flash for just a few seconds and then go off. And I can't change a darn thing. But let's see what happens if we try to push these buttons while the indicator is flashing. Notice it's on 8 right now. I'm going to push the menu button, get the flashing light, and hit the down button. 7, 6, 5. Well, it just locked up on me, so I'm going to go back to menu, down button, up button. Notice that the channel is changing in the way that up or down, depending on whether I'm pushing the up or down button. And again, after a few seconds of inactivity, it will freeze in the position it was in. Now, I want to go back to 8, 8. So I'm going to have to push the menu button. Oops, went the wrong way. Push the up button to get from 6 to 8. There we are. Now, how do we change this DCS? Push the button again. Notice DCS is flashing. Up will take you up, but we want to be on 8, 8. I've set 8, 8. In a couple seconds, you'll get a tone, the light will go off, and it's now frozen in 8, 8. But let's suppose that we want to, for some reason, use channel 1, 1. How do we do that? Well, we can't just go up and down here. Once again, we have to make sure that we're not in the lock position. Push the menu button. 8 is flashing. 1 is lower than 8, so we will push the down button. There we are. And we're already on my radio in the 1 position, but if you need to change it up or down, you push the menu button again, as I just did, and take it down to 1, 1. And again, after a couple seconds, it will freeze. You won't be able to change a darn thing. So now we are in 1, 1. 1, 1. But again, normally, for use within the greens, we want to be in 8, DCS 8. So once more, let's change it to 8, 8. Push the menu button. 8 is higher than 1, so I'm going to go with the up button. 8. And lo and behold, we're already in 8 on the DCS, but if we needed to change it, we could simply push the menu button again and go to 8. So now we're in 8, 8, which is where we want to be. And to prevent anything from messing up, because we simply push the wrong button, I hit the lock button for a couple seconds. We have the lock icon. Notice we are in channel 8, DCS 8. Once again, on the back, we want to be in channel 8, DCS 8. We're all set for operation within Sonoma Greens. If you want to talk, you push the button. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Listen, you release. Press to talk. This is a test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And release. When you're done with the radio, turn it off.